Salam, Adab, Namaskar. Welcome to PLG 46. You are the bows from which your children as living arrows are sent forth. Khalil Gibran. And if I say, celebrating the legends are the bows from which the arrows of our knowledge are sent forth, I'm sure you all will agree that there is nothing wrong. For those programs propels us reading some of the pieces that many of us might never have read. I had read a little about Khalil Gibran, had read a few poems. I knew that he has written The Prophet, one of the best-selling books of the history, of which over 120 million copies have been sold. I had never read Prophet. And when I read, I was mesmerized by his writings. And it's not only his poetry that inspired me. His thought process, his special charisma, and irresistible appeal captivated me even more. I realized that he is much more than a poet. He is a great source of wisdom and knowledge. His writing can be a guide for building bridges between cultures, for creating peace and harmony. His approach and work give insights into so many social, cultural, and political issues, such as care for environment, equality for women, hardship of migration, rights of refugees, etc., etc., to name a few. Khalil Gibran was not only a poet, he was a novelist, a writer, an essayist, and so on. In fact, when I read about him, I realized that I didn't know anything or many things about him. To be honest, I did not know many aspects of his life until I listened to various posts. I read various articles, and especially a post by Paul Gordon. And as he says in the recording, I also realized that I didn't know that in West he is admired for his poetry, but in Arab world he is admired for his stories and essays. I didn't know that he is the second most read poet in the world, only behind Shakespeare. I didn't know that John F. Kennedy famous quote, "Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country," that challenged every American to contribute in some way to the public good is actually taken from one of Khalil Gibran's Arabic article. I didn't know that Elvis Presley was one of his biggest fans, and he remembered most of his poem by heart and distributed thousands of his book copy. I didn't know that Salma Hayek is a great fan of his and has made a cartoon movie based on his book Prophet to make a wider and easier understanding of his philosophical book. I can say that without hesitation that I still do not know much about Khalil Gibran. Khalil Gibran is an ocean, and it's nearly impossible to understand him and to cover him in less than 3 hours of time, which we have got for this program. But as the saying goes, even a small piece of gold can make you rich. I believe that even if we just touch base Khalil Gibran, it will make us into. And I will now hand over the mic to the anchor of the day for this very special program, a highly intellectual program. I have to select a very, we had to select a very special person, and she is none other than our child prodigy, Likhita. Likhita needs no introduction in PLG, but this program is watched by many outside our PLG on the Facebook Live. Thousands of people watch every week. Hence, I will give a brief introduction about her for those who do not know. Likhita Kavuru, or Likhi Doll as she is popularly known, is a student of class 12 in Indian school Nizwa, who started writing poetry at a young age of 10 and who has turned into such a mature poet that if you read her poem without knowing the author's name, you will feel that it is written by any renowned poet. She has been published in many magazines such as Uncaged, Reflections, etc. And she features in school magazines every year. Her immense talent that has won her many awards and certificates. There are many more things to tell about her, but the time is constant. Because of time constant, I have to stop here, and I will hand over the mic to Likhita now to take you through this mystical evening of reading and understanding the work and life of Khalil Gibran. Likhita, welcome to the mic, to the stage. The stage is yours. Here on.
Thank
Welcome,
you so
Richa.
very much, sir. Thank you, Seemaji.
Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
That was really flattering, sir. Thank you so very much. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. I'm Likhita Kauru, your host for today. So, I saw this quote in the morning and I thought it was so true. The human brain starts working the moment you're born and never stops until you start speaking in public. I mean, these assemblies. Jokes apart, here we are with another celebrating the legend, with so many poets here with us, and my hearty welcome to all the poets and the netizens who are viewing this. We are PLG. We strive to connect people to literature. We are airing on Facebook Live now. So let's fasten our seatbelts and take off. So, starting off, here's a small question for you. Do you all know any three biggest selling poets in the world? I mean, the three biggest selling poets in the world? Shakespeare has to be there. I mean, he is at #1 in most of the records. But what about the other two? William Wordsworth? Homer? John Benjamin? Maybe. Their poetry sold a lot in the 20th century, but then the two other biggest selling poets in the world are Lao Tzu and Khalil Gibran. Yes, Khalil Gibran. Usually people say Gibran belonged to the third place, but the records prove otherwise. And now that we have so many poets here reciting Gibran's poetry, you must have definitely heard about him. A Lebanese-American poet. He was not just a poet, but he was this multi-talented guy who used to write poetry, not just poetry, but books. And he was a visual artist, a philosopher also. But then when people called him a philosopher, he rejected that. He rejected the title of philosopher. I mean, which human being would reject recognition? He did. His famous books were even translated into over like 100 languages. And if I start speaking about him, I can just go on and on. And Tufelji has already given his intro, so considering the time, let's just move on to see what our poets have for us. First up, our first poet, a little one among us. Before getting into who this is, I mean, how can a poet be so multi-talented? She can do storytelling, she can do quizzes, music, poetry, essay writing, Sanskrit sloka recitation, badminton, and so many other things. I've also heard she's from Jamshedpur. Isn't it, Jayati? Yes. Jayati, come on up with your poem. She's picked an amazing poem on children. It's all yours now, Jayati.
Yes, thank you.
Welcome,
Good evening,
Jyoti.
everyone. A very warm good evening to everyone here. Well, I won't take much time. There's this one thing I want to tell everyone. When was the first time I got to know about Khalil Gibran? I mean, for many of us, celebrating the legend of PLG becomes the first time we hear about a certain poet. My case. I was reading this extract from Wings of Fire that was a part of my course. Now, there comes this part when, as you know, Wings of Fire is the autobiography of APJ Abdul Kalam. Now, there is this part when APJ Abdul Kalam wanted to go outside to study. His mother didn't want to send him. And then his father quoted a few lines of Khalil Gibran to his mother to make her understand. Now, I learned these lines by heart for my course. One fine day, while my mother was actually researching on Khalil Gibran for this program, I just said these lines to her. I never knew what was going to happen next. And then she explodes and she tells me, do you even know this is the first 5 lines of one of the most famous poems of Khalil Gibran on children? And that's when it never took me a second to decide this is what I'll recite. So here I go. Your children are not your children. They are the sons and daughters of life's longing for itself. They come through you, but not from you. And though they are with you, yet they belong not to you. You may give them your love, but not your thoughts, for they have their own thoughts. You may house their bodies, but not their souls, for their souls dwell in the house of tomorrow, which you cannot visit, not even in your dreams. You may strive to be like them, but seek not to make them like you. For life goes not backward, nor tarries with yesterday. For life goes not backward, nor tarries with yesterday. You are the bows from which your children, as living arrows, are sent forth. The archer sees the mark upon the path of the infinite, and he bends you with his might, that his arrows may go swift and far. Let your bending in the archer's hand be for gladness, for even as he loves the arrow that flies, for even as he loves the arrow that flies, so he loves also the bow that is stable. So he loves also the bow that is stable. Thank you.
Wow, Jayati, wow.
Very nice.
That one line. That one line. You may give them your love, but not your thoughts, because they have their own thoughts. I mean, I can't relate more as a child myself. Wow. And now, next we have another shining star. When poetry is all you can see, hear, and feel, age doesn't matter. Arif has proved that. Arif is studying in the 9th grade at Indian School Gubra. Arif says he loves poetry, painting, swimming, and he will recite another of Gibran's works. So calling. Arif, please.
वेलकम आरिफ। आपका माइक म्यूट है तुफैल भाई। तुफैल भाई, योर माइक इज म्यूट।
Okay. Right.
Good evening. I will read Fear by Khalil Gibran. It is said before and a river trembles with fear. She looks back at the path she has traveled from the peaks of the mountain. The winding road crossing the forests and villages. And in front of her, she sees more than to disappear forever. But there's no other way. The river cannot go back. Nobody can go back. To go back is impossible in existence. The river needs to take the risk of entering the ocean because only then will it disappear. Or because that's where the river will know it's not about disappearing into the
So thank you, Rohit.
Thank you everyone for supporting me.
That was actually a very good poem, if you have noticed. He was trying to tell that he doesn't feel that life is meant to be lived without fear. The appearance of fear isn't a failure, but like it is for so many complex emotions. Our jobs as humans is often about coming into more awareness and consciousness with ourselves, with each other, and what we stare in each other. Thank you, Arif. Our next poet is Seema Tomarji, an aesthetically pleasing poet who knows how to captivate you with her voice. She has an MA on English and B.Ed, and she has another famous work by Khalil. Seema ji.
Hello. Hello.
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you.
Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you're audible.
Okay. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. And I want to give my heartiest respect to all of you. Today on this event, I would like to present a very conflicted prophet by reason by Khalil Gibran, The Reason and the Passion. That is about human nature, and that is about a conflict between reason and passion. So let me start with deep message. On Reason and Passion by Khalil Gibran. And the priestess spoke again and said, "Speak to us of reason and passion." And he answered, saying, "Your soul is oftentimes a battlefield upon which your reason and passion its wage and war against your passion and your appetite. Would that I could be the peacemaker in your soul, that I might turn discord and rivalry of your element into oneness and melody. But how shall I unless you yourself be also the peacemaker, nay, the loves all of your elements? Your reason and your passion are rudder and the sails of your seafaring. So if either your soul of your rudder soul be broken, you can but toss the drift, or else be held at a standstill is mid-seas. For reason ruled by alone is a force conflicting and passion at unattended, is a flame that burns to it in the destruction. Therefore, it's let your soul exalt your reason to the heights of passion, and that it may sing, and let it direct your passion may live through its own daily resurrection, and like the phoenix rise above its own ashes. I would, if I would have considered your judgment and your appetite, even as you would to loved guests your house, surely you would not honor and guest above the other, for her who is more mindful of one losses the love and the faith of both. Among the hills, when you sit in the cool shades of the white poplars, sharing the peace and serenity of distant fields and meadow, then let your heart say in silence, God, rest in reason, and when the storm come and mighty wind shake the forest, and thunder and lightning proclaim the mighty of the sky, then let your heart say it on good, moves in passion, and since you are breathing, God is there, and leave good God for us, you too should rest in reason, move in passion. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Seemaji.
Welcome.
Reason and passion.
बहुत बढ़िया, very nice.
Indeed, it was an amazing poem. Reason and passion. Khalil once quoted, "Love one another, but make not a bond of love. Let it rather be a moving sea between the shores of your souls." Is this what wisdom and knowledge sounds like? Precisely. Now, we have our next poet. We have the Mother Teresa of Jamshedpur, an amazing poet and an amazing mom of another poet, Kiranji. Had I not mentioned, Kiranji is a former HOD of Computer Science in Graduate College of Women. Kiranji, please.
Namaste. Welcome everyone and Salam Alaikum. Good evening everybody. Whenever I try to stand, I fail to meet my success. Someone or other comes and make it all mess. Like rain, the obstacle drop down and block my path ahead. Despite my shouts and scream, no one come to my aid. How can I express my pain of my heart? How can I show how it bleeds? I am helplessly spoiling myself by lovely living among this worthless people. I should not blame. I should not blame. I should not complain. Then what else I should? What else I should do? If my worth is false, if my might is false, then what else is true? Yes, gentlemen, true is Khalil Gibran. Thank you so much to PLG. Because of PLG, so today the name of my poem is Let Peace by Your Desire. Desire, but to fulfill itself. Love has no other desire itself. But if your love and must need have desires, let this be your desire. Let this be your desire. To melt and like a running brooks that sings its melody of night. To melt and be like a running brooks that sings its melody of night. To know the pain of too much tenderness, to know the pain of too much tenderness, to be wounded by your own understanding of love, and to bleed willingly and joyfully, to and to melt and be like running brooks that melts its melody to the night. To know the pain of too much tenderness, to be wounded by your own understanding of love, and to bleed willingly and joyfully, to wake at dawn with the winged heart, and give thanks to other day of loving, and give thanks to other day of loving, to rest at the noon hour. I want your attention, please. To wake at dawn with the winged heart and give thanks for another day of loving, to rest at the noon hour and meditate love's ecstasy, trance. It's a very big word, trance. To return home, to return home at even tired with the gratitude, and then to sleep with prayer, and then to sleep with prayer for the beloved in your heart. For whom? For the beloved in your heart, and a song of praise upon your lips, and a song of praise upon your lips. Let this be your desire. Love has no other desire but to fulfill itself. But if your love and must need have desires, let this be your desire. Let this be your desire. Let this be your desire. Gentlemen and women, my dear friends, more you give, more you get. More you laugh, less you fret. More you share, less you spare. So we are fortunate. Share your joys and sorrow with a big platform of PLG. Once again, thank you so much, all of you.
Absolutely, Kiranji. Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thank you too, Likhita. I honored you called
Thank
me.
you very much, ma'am. I mean, that was such a unique topic. We would have heard of all kinds of guides, but we never hear of love guides. I mean, Khalil Gibran made this possible. Amusing. Moving on, I'd like to call this poet, who was my opponent in Kavi Mukabla, Munawarji. He has "Let These Be Your Desires" to present. Apparently, he would also like to talk about love. A poem filled in love, emotions, and feelings. Munawarji, please.
Thank you, Likhita. Thank you very much. Am I audible? Can you see me? Because my
Yes,
internet
you're audible,
is
sir.
somehow creating some problem. Am I? Okay, thank you very much. Because my laptop, I am getting some problem, but mobile I am using for that. Thank you very much. You are doing very nice anchoring, and I can feel you are managing time very nicely.
Thank you so very much, sir.
So I would like to congratulate you. You are doing very good job. So
Thank you so very much, sir.
I don't know whether my voice is reaching you nicely or not. Okay, thank you.
Manoharji, your voice is
So-
reaching very nicely. Please recite the poetry.
Okay, Okay, thank you very much. So I would like to recite the, I have chosen very small poem in length and breadth of words, but it has a very vast meaning. So I would like to recite that. Uh, let these be your desire. Love has no, love has, yeah. Love has no other desire but to fulfill itself. But if you love and must need have desires, her desires to melt and be like a running brook that sings its melody through the night, to know the pain of too much tenderness, to be wounded, by your own understanding of love, and to bleed willingly and joyfully, to wake at dawn with a winged heart and give thanks for another day of loving, to rest at the noon hour and meditate love's ecstasy, to return home at eventide with gratitude, and then to sleep with a prayer for the beloved in your heart and a song of praise upon your lips. Thank you very much, Likha. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much, sir. When you recited your poem, it just reminded me of a quote. And ever has it been known that love knows not its own depth until you part. A very, very deep quote by Khalil Gibran himself. Next, we have the very famous CA of the group, Shahnawazji. He would like to be called Shaz, I believe. And he has been attending Kavi Sammelans for 14 years now. And he does indeed love poetry. He's here to recite yet another work. Shazji, please.
Hello, everybody. Thank you very much, Litika, for a kind introduction. Earlier, when the program started, Tufail Bhai has mentioned something about the book called Prophet. So my poem is one of the collections of out of the 26 prose poetry from the book Prophet, which talks about various subjects, religion, death, including the friendship. So the verse which I'm going to recite from that book is called On Friendship, where the Prophet is been telling to the mankind the relationship with your friends. So that's the context of the poem On Friendship. And a youth said, "Speak to us of friendship." And he answered, saying, "Your friend is your needs answered. He is your friend. He is your field, which you sow with love and reap with thanksgiving. And he is your board and your fireside. For you come to him with your hunger and you seek him for peace. When your friends speak his mind, you fear not the nay. Nay means is no. In your own mind, nor do you withhold the a, which is means yes. And when he's silent, your heart ceases not to listen to his heart. For without words in friendship, all thoughts, all desires, all expectations are born and shared with joy that is unacclaimed. When you part from your friend, you grieve not, for that which you love most in him may be clear in his absence, as the mountain to the climber is clearer from the plain. And let there be no purpose in friendship, save the deepening of the spirit, for love that seeks aught, which means anything, for love that seeks aught but the disclosure of its own mystery, us not love, but a net cash word, and only be unprofitable is God. And let your best be for your friend if he must know the ebb of your tide, which means the reach of your tide. If he must know the ebb of your tide, let him know its flood also. For what is your friend that you should seek him with hours to kill? Seek him always with hours to live. For it is his to fill your need, but not your emptiness. And in the sweetness of the friendship, let there be laughter and sharing of pleasures. For in the dew of little things, the heart finds its morning and is refreshed. So, on friendship. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much, Shashi. That one part. In a friend's silence, you hear his heart's thoughts. Just beautifully written. Another quote. If you love somebody, let them go. For if they return, they were always yours. If they don't, they never were. Love is a magic ray emitted from the burning core of the soul and the illuminating light surrounding the earth. Our next poet, let me call upon Sarwat Ali ji to lead on. Love is a magic ray. Sarwat Ali ji, you're next.
Thank you, Likita. And you're doing a wonderful job. And I'd like to read some of his famous quotation, which I like. Friendship is always a responsibility, never an opportunity. Yesterday is but today's memory, and tomorrow is today's dream. So now I will start my poem. Love is a magic ray emitted from the burning coal of the soul and illuminating the surrounding earth. It is enable us to perceive life and a beautiful dream between one awaking and another.
Nice.
Nice. It's a very small, but thank you so much, Likita.
That was very short in words. It has big meaning.
Thank you so very much, ma'am. If you all know this fact, Khalil was a very famous author, but then he still drew or painted around 700 images. If passion could take a human form, it would be him. Moving on, I'll tell you a story, a small story. A man fell in love with a woman. He says, she has the beauty of an angel, a heavenly angel. But due to some earthly reasons, he had to separate from his lover. That might be so saddening, isn't it? Now, Shailaji would like to describe all this pain and emotion through the poem written by Gibran, named Lover's Call. Shailaji, please.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much, Alikita. I believe you're doing a fantastic job, and it's always good to hear from you. Yeah, so you have tell the name of my poem. It's "Lover's Call." Yes, but before that, I just want to brief, just to give a little bit summary of my poem. That it's about a lover who seeks the beloved presence even when he or she is not with her or him. The purity of love make it holy to be personified with God. The poet also asks her beloved if she is in the heaven and showering rain on the flowers that are looking
up to her like newborns who look up their mother feeding them. I will not take your much time and I will get through to my poem, A Lover's Call by Khalil Gibran. It's my honor to recite this poem on this PLG stage. Where are you, my beloved? Are you in that little paradise, watering the flowers who look upon you as infants look upon the breast of their mothers? Or are you in your chamber where the shrine of virtue has been placed in your honor and upon which you offer my heart and soul as sacrifice? Or amongst the books seeking human knowledge while you are replete with heavenly wisdom? O companion of my soul, where are you? Are you praying in the temple or calling nature in the field? Heaven of your dreams, are you in the huts of the poor, consoling the broken-hearted with the sweetness of your soul and filling their hands with your bounty? Your God spirit everywhere, you're stronger than the ages. Do you have memory of the day we met when the halo of your spirit surrounded us and the angels of love floated about singing the praise of the soul's deed? Do you recollect our sitting in the shade of the branches, sheltering ourselves from humanity as the ribs protect the divine secret of the heart from injury? Recall you the hour I bade you the farewell and the maritime kiss you placed on my lips? That kiss taught me that joining of lips in love reveals heavenly secrets which the tongue cannot utter. That kiss was an introduction to a great Sunday, like the Almighty's breath that turned into a man. I remember when you kissed me with tears coursing your cheeks, and you said, earthly bodies must often separate for earthly purpose and must live apart, impelled by worldly intent. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so very much, Shailaji. We all could feel that pain. And another little fact, Khalil Gibran is honored with a statue and a small park on a major street in the American capital. His vision of brotherhood is honored with the Khalil Gibran Spirit of Humanity Awards. That was a little random though. Moving on, our next poet. This poet, I really don't know. I tried to come up with some lines of poetry, but I realized whatever I say is an understatement. I mean, mere words can't do justice to what he really is. How do I describe him? Can I call him the moon to our stars, the waves to our shore, the smile to our eyes, or Tufailji to our PLG? Tufailji, please.
Thank you, Likita, for such a lovely description. You are doing great comparing today evening, and you have really done the kind of justice which is required for this kind of program, for Khalil Gibran's program. Wonderful. You have
It is an
elevated the
honor,
mood.
sir. Thank you so
You
very
have
much.
elevated the mood of the evening. Thank you very much. The poem which I had selected is already read, so let me select another poem. And this poem is Giving. It's part of his book, which is Prophet. Prophet, as you know, is a series of poems which is written in the context that Al-Mustafa, who is considered to be a prophet, and he is living in an island for last 12 years away from his homeland. And the day has come when the ship has arrived and he is about to board the ship. And the people of the town gather and ask him, he is considered as prophet, and has asked him the word of wisdom and he gives his thoughts. He gives the reply. He replies to the people with his thinkings on different topics, varying subjects. And you have heard few like Children by Jati, and then um, and Love by somebody I don't recall, which I wanted to decide, but it's already set in. So I take another one, which is Giving. So uh, the different people ask. So here the rich man is asking, and then said, a rich man, speak to us of giving. And he answered, you give but little when you give of your possessions. It is when you give of yourself that you truly give. For what are your possessions but things you keep and guard for fear you may need them tomorrow? And tomorrow, what shall tomorrow bring to the over-prudent dog burying bones in the trackless sand as he follows the pilgrims to the holy city? And what is fear of need but need itself? Is not dearth of thirst when your well is full, the thirst that is unquestionable? There are those who give little of the much they have, and they give for it recognition, and their hidden desire makes their gift unwholesome. And there are those who have little and give it all. These are the believers in life and the bounty of life, and their coffer is never empty. There are those who give with joy, and that joy is their reward. And there are those who give with pain, and the pain is their baptism. And there are those who give. And there are those give and know not pain in giving, nor they seek joy, nor give with mindfulness of virtue. They give in yonder valley the martyr breathes its fragrance into a space. Through the hands of such as God speaks from behind their eyes, he smiles upon the earth. It is well to give when asked, but it is better to give unasked, through understanding. And to the open-handed, the search for one who shall receive is joy greater than giving. And is there aught you should withhold? You would withhold, and you all have shall someday be given. Therefore, give now, that the season of giving may be yours and not your inheritors. You often say, I would give, but only to the deserving. The trees in the orchard say, not so, not the flocks in your pasture. They give that may live, for to withhold is to perish. Surely he who is worthy to receive his days and his nights is worthy all else from you. And he who has deserved to drink from the ocean of life deserved to fill his cup from your little stream. And what desert gathered shall there be than that which lies in the courage and the confidence, nay, the charity of receiving? And who are you that men should rend their bosom and unveil their pride, that you may see their worth naked and their pride unabashed? See first that you yourself deserve to be giver and an instrument of giving, for in it is life that gives unto life, while you who dream yourself a giver are but a witness. And you receives, and you receivers, and you all receivers, assume no weight of gratitude, lest you lay a yoke upon yourself and upon him who gives. Rather, rise together with the giver on his gift on the wings. For to be over mindful of your debt is to doubt his generosity, who has free-hearted earth for mother and God for mother. That's the poem from Khalil Gibran. And as you might have seen that Khalil says that when you give with joy and don't give with the pain. That's the message, I think, the essence of this poem. And he says that give. I remember, a saying in the, I heard that giving and taking is a process in which the giver always has an upper hand and the taker has, feels small. So whenever you give something to anybody, give in such a way that the person who is receiving feels that by taking your gift or your donation, you are not doing charity to him. Rather, you are not doing any favor to him. Rather, he is doing favor to you by taking your charity. This is the way we should give, and that's the spirit of giving. And I think that's what Khalil Gibran wants to convey in this book. Thank you very much for listening. And I would request now our PLG Global Vice President, Mr. Ashish Sharma, to display the Madhyantar video. And Madhyantar is not to go away, but it is just to to refresh ourselves, to get out of the rut, have some refreshment, have some refreshing video, and then we go back to the book.
Thank you very much, Tufail sir. Today we are celebrating the legend Khalil Gibran. So our Madhyantar video is also about him. So here I play.
Fantastic, fantastic.
That was a wonderful video, sir. Thank you, Ashish and Abhilaksh.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
With that, we come to the heart of our session today. Another quote. Those who are in love, let there be spaces in your togetherness, and let the winds of heavens dance between you. I seem to love his quotes. Moving on. Next, we have Fatimaji. It's a teacher and she says, She used to participate in cultural events, and now, after so many years, she could do all that again with the help of PLG, and she feels nostalgic. Hakimji, PLG is grateful to embrace the poetry lover in you. More than welcome, ji.
Thank you, Likhita. Am I audible?
Yes, you're
Yes,
audible,
please.
ma'am.
Okay. Namaskar, Adab, and a warm welcome to all the viewers of PLG. First of all, I would like to thank Tufail sir and Praveen sir for giving me this opportunity to participate in today's recitation event. And as we are celebrating the legend Khalil Gibran, as we know, Khalil Gibran was a Lebanese American writer and a poet. So today I will be reciting one of his finest and most impressive poem, Love One Another. In this poem, Gibran has expressed his belief in love, and at the same time, he has given importance to individuality and also giving space to each other in a relationship. So I'll begin with my poem, Love One Another. Love one another, but make not a bond of love. Let it rather be a moving sea between the shores of your souls. Fill each other's cup, but drink not from one cup. Give one another of your bread, but eat not from the same loaf. Sing and dance together and be joyous, but let each one of you be alone. Even as the strings of a lute are alone, though they quiver with the same music. Give your hearts, but not into each other's keeping, for only the hand of life can contain your hearts. And stand together, yet not too near together, for the pillars of the temple stand apart, and the oak tree and the cypress grow not in each other's shadow. Thank you. So this was my poem.
Very nice.
Thank you,
Very
Fatima
nice.
ji. Thank you. That was such a beautiful poem. I mean, if you see the beauty of this poem, Gibran speaks of his belief in love, but also the importance of individuality and the spirit. Such a masterpiece of a poem. And there is another quote. You'll never forget with whom you laughed, but you'll never forget with whom you've wept with. I mean, you'll forget with whom you laughed, but you'll never forget with whom you've wept with. End quote. Here we have another extremely absorbing poem where he tells, do not love half lovers, do not entertain half friends, do not live half a life and do not die half death. Preeti Sharma ji, please take over. Preeti Sharma ji.
Thank you, Nikita. नमस्कार एलसीजी के इस मंच पर मैंने आज मेरे फर्स्ट टाइम यहाँ पे पार्टिसिपेट कर रही हूँ और मुझे एक बहुत ही खास बात लगी है यहाँ पे कि ये मंच सिर्फ अपनी कविता के लिए नहीं सबको प्रेजेंट कर रहा, वो साहित्यकार, वो रचनाकार जो लिटरेचर में इतना महत्वपूर्ण भूमिका निभा चुके हैं उनको भी प्रमोट करता है। मैंने खलील जिब्रान को फर्स्ट टाइम जब मुझे बताया गया कि आप पार्टिसिपेट करोगे तो मैंने फर्स्ट टाइम उनका नाम सुना। तो बहुत से ऐसे लोग जिन्होंने हमने शेक्सपियर का नाम सुना है, कीट्स का नाम सुना है, लेकिन मैंने अब तक खलील जिब्रान का नाम नहीं सुना था। मैंने सर्च किया तो मैंने उनकी लिटरेचर और पोएट्री को, तो मैं भी एलजी का बहुत आभार व्यक्त करना चाहती हूँ कि ये उन लोगों को एक सोच दे रहा है कि वो साहित्यकार, वो लिटरेचर लवर जिन्होंने इतनी अच्छी पोस्टिंग की है, इतना उनको आम जनता तक फेसबुक के थ्रू आम जनता तक पहुंचाने के लिए मैं इस पूरे ग्रुप का आभार व्यक्त करती हूँ। और जो पॉइंट मैंने सेलेक्ट की है, डोंट लव हाफ लवर्स, बहुत ही इंस्पिरेशन मिली मुझे इस पॉइंट को पढ़कर। डोंट लव हाफ लवर्स, डोंट एंटरटेन हाफ फ्रेंड्स, don't indulge in words. Don't indulge in words with a half energy. Don't live half alive. Don't live half alive. And don't die a half death. Don't die a half death. Don't accept half a solution. Don't accept half a solution. Don't leave half truth. Don't leave half truth. Don't leave half a dream. Don't leave half a dream. Don't satellite about half hope. Half a life is a life. Half a life in the life you don't live. A word you have not said. A word you have not said. A smile you postpone. A smile you postpone. I love you have not had. I love you have not had. A friendship you did not know. A friendship you did not know. You are a whole that exists. You are a whole that exists to live a life, half a life, to live a life, half a life. बहुत ही सुंदर कविता। इस लाइफ में हमें कभी भी हाफ नहीं, पूरे दिल से जिए, तभी हम अपने कंट्री का, अपनी सोसाइटी का और पूरे वर्ल्ड का कुछ डेवलपमेंट कर सकते हैं। बहुत ही सुंदर कविता लगी। थैंक यू सो मच एलपी। और लिखिता, मुझे बहुत ही अच्छा लगा कि आप इतनी छोटी उम्र में सबको लीड कर रहे हो। आई एम सो हैप्पी।
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much.
And as she very truly said, do not live half a life. Do not live half a life. And do not die half a death. Moving on. While I was doing a little research on Khalil, there was this little part popped up. Pretty vague, but deep. It goes, if you would indeed behold the spirit of death, open your heart wide onto the body of life. For life and death are one, even as the river and sea are one. In the depth of your hopes and desires lies your silent knowledge of the beyond, and like seeds dreaming beneath the snow of your heart, dreaming of spring. That was amazing. Our next poet is the reincarnation of Muses, the patron of epic poetry. I mean, if you've ever read her poetry, you unconsciously get indulged into every word she puts down. None other than Sheribanuji. It's all yours now, Sheribanuji.
Good evening, namaskar, adab, salam alaikum, all my PLG friends. Sorry for being missing around because my children are coming tonight and I have to hurry for the airport. But I couldn't miss this Khalil Gibran's event. Thanks to PLG giving us an insight to read about this great legend. Actually, I was really confused to pick up which poem, but I picked up a poem known as Night by Khalil Gibran Khalil. And I also happened to read a little bit before I could start the program. And it seems he was born in northern Lebanon, which was a part of Syria and which was under the Ottoman Turks. And he used to write earlier in Arabic and all about Lebanese peasant and the revolution over there. So here I start. Here goes my poem, The Night. O night, abiding place of poets and lovers. O night, where shadows dwell with spirits and vision. O night, enfolder of our longings and desire, our memory, crowned with the moon and garmented with silence, who gazes with 1,000 eyes into the depths of light and listens to the 1,000 sighs in desolation and of death. It is your darkness that reveals to us the light of heaven, for the light of day has enshrouded us with the darkness of the earth. It is your promise that opens up our eyes to eternity, for the vanity of the day had held us like blind men in the world of time and space. It is your tranquil silence that unveils the secret of ever wakeful, ever restless spirits. For the day is a turbulent clamor, where souls are like beneath the sharp hooves of ambition and desire. O night, you are a shepherd who gathers into the fold of sleep the dreams of the weak, the hopes of the strong. You are a seer who closes with the mystic finger the eyelids of the wretched and lifts their heart to a world more kindly than this world. In the folds of your grey garment, lovers have found their valor, and upon your feet, wet with the dew of heaven, the lonely heart weeps her tears. In the palm of your hands, fragrant with the scent of field and vineyard, strangers have led their longing and despair. To lovers you are a friend, to the lonely a comforter, and to the desolate a host. On your bosom the prophetic heart awakens, upon your brow imagination rides. For the poet you are a sovereign, to the prophet you are a vision. I gazed into the eyes of darkness and listened to the murmuring of invisible wings. There I saw you, O night, tragic, beautiful, and awesome, standing between the heaven and earth, clouds for your garment, laughing at the light of the sun, overlooking the supremacy of the day. I saw you weeping before the smiles of prostitutes and trampling with your feet the mean-spirited. There, O night, I saw you and you saw me. I followed you, O night, until I became like you. In you dwells the worshipper's prayers. I'm like you, O night. I'm like and like you, I am accused that I am not. I'm like you, O night, for I too am vast and gone. There's no beginning to my darkness and no end to my depth. When the souls depart and rise to pride themselves upon the light of joy, my night so shall descend, glorified the darkness. I'm like you, O night, and when my dawn comes, so shall come my end. Thank you.
Thank you so very much,
So nice,
Rekha.
so nice, so nice. Well written.
Thank you.
Very
Well
nice.
done, well done.
Excellent.
Awesome.
When people say poetry breathes in life with the help of its reciter, I don't believe it, but I can really see it's true right now. I love listening to you, ma'am. If you've heard another fun fact about Khalil, moving on. If you've heard another fun fact about Khalil, though he moved to America when he was just 12 years old, Khalil chose to remain a Lebanese citizen because this is what shows his patriotism as well. Such a great man was he. And we move on to our next poet. And this poet, she personifies adroit, divine, and dream-like poetry. She's got magic in her words, and it's our very own Vibhaji. Vibhaji, she's here to recite the songs of rain. It's all yours now, Vibhaji.
You're doing it very well. And
Thank you, ma'am.
the way you are presenting our poets and introducing, it seems that I'm going to come, and I was very happy with each introduction that no, this time I'm coming. All the words and all the introductions are so good, so good.
Thank you so very much.
At first sentence, I thought it's me. And I thought, no, I cannot be such poetic. I don't expect such poetic and soft introduction. So you're doing it very well. and you are encouraging all poets. And here we go, it's Khalil Gibran. And basically I read Hindi poem and Hindi poetry. And here what I mentioned that I when I was student, I bought his book in train, and then I read the poetry. And as usual, the book was at my home, so I oftenly read the poems. So today I'm going to recite Song of Rain. So, and I just translated into Hindi. Why? Because this poem I found that the definition of love or expression of love don't do, we should not make half love or half promise or half things. So some European definitions or American definitions or Indian definitions or our kind of definitions, they're not so much different from each other. And here we go with rain. He also romanticized rains in this poem. So I will not read the English version because it will take too much time. I will read only a few lines, first stanza and third, first and 10th, just three lines. And dotted silver thread dropped from heaven by the God's nature, then takes me to adorn her fields and valleys. And now come to Hindi version, which I did. It took too much time to find the perfect words. मैं चला स्वर्ग के रजत सूत्र में, ईश्वर के आदेश मान, माता प्रकृति ने धारण कर श्रृंगार करो तुम धरती का, खेतों का यह आदेश दिया.
क्या बात है, वेरी नाइस.
वाह वाह, क्या बात है विवाह जी,
बहुत सुंदर, अतुलनीय.
Like adorn her fields and valleys. तो श्रृंगार करो तुम धरती का, खेतों का ये आदेश दिया. मैं कोमल सुंदर मोती जो इश्तर के ताज से टूटा हूँ, फिर धारण करके प्रात सुता ने बागों का श्रृंगार किया. इश्तर स्टैंड्स फॉर अ गॉडेस. इश्तर एक देवी है, गॉडेस है, जो प्रतिनिधित्व करती है रोमांस का भी, और उसके हाथों में कुछ अस्त्र शस्त्र हैं. तो इश्तर एक देवी है. तो मैं कोमल सुंदर मोती जो इश्तर के ताज से टूटा हूँ, फिर धारण करके प्रात सुता इज जू, सुबह की बेटी. प्रात सुता ने बागों का श्रृंगार किया. मैं रोता हूँ पर्वत हंसते, मैं झुकता हूँ तो फूल हंसे, प्रकृति के सारे तंत्र यंत्र मेरी विनम्रता से प्रशस्त. है प्रेम बादलों खेतों में और मेघदूत में इनका हूँ. Rain joins them together. खेतों की प्यास बुझाई है, था गर्भ बादलों का भारी, उनका भी बोझ उतारा है. This is how rain joins these meadows or farms and clouds. मेघदूत. आना मेरी बिजली कड़की, जाना मेरा है इंद्रधनुष, मैं भी धरती पर जीवन सा आता हूँ रहता और ऊपर नभ में वापस उड़ जाता हूँ. आता हूँ रहता और ऊपर नभ में वापस उड़ जाता हूँ. मैं सागर की पानी में खारी, लहरें बनकर पनपा हूँ. फिर देखा प्यासे खेत कहीं, तो फूलों पत्तों को चूमा, वृक्षों को गले लगाया है. अपने नाजुक अंगुलियों से हर खिड़की को छूकर आया. सब सुनते हैं ये गीत मेरे, जो भावुक हो वो समझे हैं. जो भावुक हो वो समझे हैं. जिस उष्मा के कारण जन्मा, उस पर ही हावी हो बैठा. Here, why? Because he was unmarried or something was there in his love life and marital life and her mother and her father. So he has some other image of woman which he is expressing in these lines. जिस उष्मा के कारण जन्मा, उस पर ही हावी हो बैठा, जैसे कोई कामिनी कभी पुरुषों की शक्ति हरण करके उस पे ही हावी हो जाए. बहुत सुंदर. मैं सागरों का मैं आह सागरों का खेतों की हंसी स्वर्ग का आंसू हूँ। मैं आह सागरों का खेतों की हंसी स्वर्ग का आंसू हूँ, फिर प्रेम पूर्ण जागीरों से. And in last lines, he's like writing some words or some notes or some signatory notes. तो फिर प्रेम पूर्ण जागीरों से सागर को मेरा प्रेम दिया. मैदानों को रंगी खुशियां नैसर्गिक आंसू भावों के और अंतहीन स्मृतियां दे दी और अंतहीन स्मृतियां दे दी. So the last line, the summary of poem in his own words was, so with love, sighs from deep sea affection, laughter from the colorful fields of the spirit, tears from the endless heaven of memories. So मैदानों को रंगी खुशियां नैसर्गिक आंसू भावों को और अंतहीन स्मृतियां दे दी. थैंक यू वेरी मच. बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद.
धन्यवाद आपको भी.
बहुत
बहुत
बढ़िया,
सुंदर,
बहुत बढ़िया.
बहुत खूबसूरत प्रयास. बहुत अच्छा.
धन्यवाद.
PLG once again he पे पूरे.
Thank you.
Ma'am, I just realized you brought life into the session.
Yeah. No doubt, no doubt.
Definitely. People were so absorbed in the poetry, and she brought that right,
बहुत धन्यवाद.
बहुत सुंदर.
And the poem that she recited, I can't clearly recollect, but I guess this was a poem that I learned when I was in grade 8 or 9. It was basically the voice of rain, a very abstract poem.
Grade 9.
And we move on.
Yeah.
Our next poet, an emotion she feels, a thought she scribbles, a word she utters. Everything is as mellifluous as the flowing river of the heavenly nectar. Anupamji, what should I even tell about her? The moment she starts to speak, the world shuts down and it's just me and her poem revolving in another universe. She has chosen a beautiful poem for us today. Anupamji, please.
Like everybody else, you caught me by surprise too. Every time I thought this can't be me. And this time I
मैडम आपका कैमरा ऑफ है.
नहीं on है जी.
दिख रही है.
Every time you introduced a poet, I thought it was me, and then I thought, no, I'm not so good. But this time I was definitely floored. So thank you so much, Likita. It is wonderful to be participating in a program anchored by you. It is fabulous to be able to just share the thoughts of such a magnificent poet, thinker, philosopher like Khalil Gibran. And it is an honor to be able to present it to such an august audience, which starts with Tufail Bhai, Ashish Ji, and all of these poets, and of course the Facebook audience. So thank you so much. The reason I chose death is because I have been trying to study the Bhagavad Gita for some time, and somehow everybody is scared of death. We are all scared of death because it's an unknown. And when I read Khalil Gibran, I felt I was reading the Bhagavad Gita. And like so many of our esteemed poets have said, the underlying current of awareness, of knowledge, of connection is the same. This is a beautiful poem and it touched me at many levels. Hence, I'm sharing on death. It's also a part of the Prophet. Like Tufail Bhai said, it was an iconic collection and it's very hard to move away from it, you know, when you're choosing a poem. So here goes on death. Then Al-Mitra spoke, saying, "We would ask now of death." And he said, "You would know the secret of death, but how shall you find it unless you seek it in the heart of life? The owl whose night-bound eyes are blind unto the day cannot unveil the mystery of light. If you would indeed behold the spirit of death. Open your heart wide unto the body of life. For life and death are one, even as the river and sea are one. For life and death are one, even as the river and sea are one. In the depth of your hopes and desires lies your silent knowledge of the beyond. And like seeds dreaming beneath the snow, your heart dreams of spring. Trust the dreams, for in them is hidden the gate to eternity. Your fear of death is but the trembling of the shepherd when he stands before the king, whose hand is to be laid upon him in honor. Your fear of death is but the trembling of the shepherd when he stands before the king, whose hand is to be laid upon him in honor. Is the shepherd not joyful beneath his trembling, that he shall wear the mark of the king? Yet, is he not more mindful of his trembling? For what is it to die? For what is it to die but to stand naked in the wind and to melt into the sun? For what is it to die but to stand naked in the wind and to melt into the sun? And what is it to cease breathing but to free the breath from its restless tides, that it may rise and expand and seek God unencumbered? Only when you drink from the river of silence shall you indeed sing. Only when you drink from the river of silence shall you indeed sing. And when you have reached the mountain top, then you shall begin to climb. And when the earth shall claim your limbs, then shall you truly dance. And when the earth shall claim your limbs, then shall you truly dance. So death is not binding, death is freedom. This was such an uplifting thought for me. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. Thank you so much.
Amazing.
And once again, I apologize for keeping my camera off because
No, it's okay.
because of my mother.
We all know. We all know.
No,
Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much, Anupamji. Like I already did mention, would you find a difference between the waters in river and sea? The same way, life and death have no difference too. In the depth of your hopes and desires lie your silent knowledge of the beyond, and like seeds dreaming beneath the snow of your heart, dreaming of spring. What a thought! What a thought! Our next poet is Sakina Dosaji. A little birdie told me she began writing when she was 13 years old. She's pen-named Sakina's Poetry Petals, and here she is to recite on pain. Sakina ji, please.
Good evening, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you're audible.
On the days that are grey and sultry, sore and blue, this is the poem I turn to. Your pain is the breaking of the shell that encloses your understanding. Even as the stone of the fruit must break, that its heart may stand in the sun, so must you know pain. And would you keep your heart in wonder at the daily miracles of your life, your pain would not seem less wondrous than your joy. And you would accept the seasons of your heart, even as you have always accepted the seasons that pass over your fields. And you would watch with serenity through the winters of your grief. Much of your pain is self-chosen. It is the bitter portion by which the physician within you heals your sick self. Therefore, trust the physician and drink his remedy in silence and tranquility. For his hand, though heavy and hard, is guided by the tender hand of the unseen. And the cup he brings, though it burn your lips, has been fashioned of the clay which the potter has moistened with his own sacred tears. Thank you.
Very nice, very nice.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so very much, Sakina ji.
Thank you.
Between what is said and not meant, and what is meant and not said, most of the love is lost. Deep. Now, I would like to call Satish ji. He among us is also a CA, and he seems to love poetry as much. As he has chosen one of the most touching poems, Beauty, the Prophet. Satish ji, please.
You're mute, Satish ji.
Sorry. Good evening to our Global President, Mr. Tufail Ahmed, and good evening to our Vice President, Mr. Ashish Sharma, and of course our audience, and good evening and good morning to all of our great poets. Khalil Gibran. In American literature, he's also known as Khalil Gibran, if you ever search him, and famously known as Khalil Gibran, who walked on this planet for a brief period of time and wrote such a fine poetry, and he penetrates deep into human mind. And he checked out on this planet at the mere age of 48. He achieved so much, gave us another proof of reincarnation. How can a person in such a short period of time achieve so much? And I was mesmerized when I read his work and selected one of his poems on beauty. Where shall you seek beauty? And how shall you find her unless she herself be your way and your guide? And how shall you speak of her except be the weaver of your speech? The aggrieved and the injured say, beauty is kind and gentle. Like a young mother, half shy of her own glory, she walks among us. And the passionate say, nay, beauty is a thing of might and dread. Like the tempest, she shakes the earth beneath us and the sky above us. The tired and the weary say, beauty is of soft whisperings. She speaks in our spirit. Her voice yields to our silences like a faint light that quivers in fear of the shadow. But the restless say, we heard her shouting among the mountains, and with her cries came the sound of the hoofs and the beauty beating of the wings and the roaring of lions. At the might, the watchmen of the city say, beauty shall rise with the dawn from the east. And at the noontide, the toilers and the wayfarers say, we have seen her leaning over the earth from the windows of the sunset. In the winter say, the snowbound, she shall come with the spring leaping upon the hills. And in the summer heat, the reapers say, we have seen her dancing with the autumn leaves and we saw a drift of snow in her hair. And these things have you said of beauty, all these things have you said of beauty. Yet in truth, you spoke not her, but of needs unsatisfied. And the beauty is not a need, but an ecstasy. It is not a mouth thirsting, nor an empty hand stretched forth, but rather a heart felt and flamed, and a soul enchanted. It is not the image you would see, nor the song you would hear, but rather an image you see, though you close your eyes, and a song you hear, though you shut your ears. It is not the sap within the furrowed bark, nor a wing attached to a claw, but rather a garden forever in the bloom, and a flock of angels forever in the flight. People of flesh, beauty is life, when life unveils her holy face. But you are life, and you are the veil. Beauty is eternity, gazing at itself in a mirror. But you are eternity, and you are the mirror, and you are the mirror. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Satishji.
Nice, very
As he
nice.
said,
Thank you.
So very good, very good.
as he said, beauty is something different for everyone and can be described in different ways. Different people have different perspectives about beauty. But then the poem asks the people not to look outside themselves for true beauty, but to look for the beauty that is alive and eternal within them. When they gaze out upon the world from this perspective, they will find beauty looking back at them, as if they were gazing into a mirror. That mirror can only reflect the world outside as the beauty inside them sees it. Beautiful. And believe it or not, another fact, Khalil never went to school. He was taught Arabic and Bible by the priests who visited his house. Surprising, isn't it? He's such a great author. Next, we are nearing the end of our session. We have just one poem left, but three of the poets will be reciting it. Our Southeast Asia wing. Firstly, Ashish Sharmaji, who currently resides in Medan of Indonesia, one of the prolific writers of our group, as he has published lots of books and magazines. He will be reciting the first and second part of his poem, The Poet's Voice, followed by Meenakshi and Sureshji.
Thank you very
Ashishji,
much.
please.
Yes. Thank you very much, Likita. You are doing fabulous anchoring
Thank you,
and
sir.
holding everyone's together. As we spoke before the event, you will rock the show, as I told you, and you are already doing so.
Thank you, sir. Thank you
No
very
doubt,
much.
no doubt about it.
Thank you. Yes, you are right that the plan is like that we chose this poem, and then I requested Meenakshi ji and Suresh ji. Rather, Suresh ji is sitting just beside me today because we were together for family dinner. So I'll be reciting part 1. Part 2 may take longer time, so we will send it for magazine. But as far as reciting is concerned, I'll recite part 1. Meenakshi ji from Surabaya, Indonesia will recite part 2. And Suresh ji sitting beside me will recite part 4. But in the magazine, we will give all the 4 parts with the conclusion. And here I go. Khalil Gibran, the legend himself, and the poem is A Poetic Voice. Part 1. The power of charity sows deep in my heart, and I reap and gather the wheat in bundles and give them to the hungry. My soul gives life to the grapevine, and I press its bunches and give the juice to the thirsty. Heaven fills my lamp with the oil, and I place it at my window to direct the stranger through the dark. I do all things because I live in them. And if destiny should tie my hands and prevent me for so doing, then death be my only desire. For I am a poet, and if I cannot give, I shall refuse to receive. I shall refuse to receive. Humanity rages like a tempest, but I sigh in the silence, for I know the storm must pass away while a sigh goes to God. Humankind cling to earthly things, but I seek ever to embrace the torch of love, so it will purify me by its fire and sear in humanity from my heart. Substantial things deaden a man without suffering. Love awakens him and living pains. Humans are divided into different clans and tribes and belong to the countries and towns. But I find myself a stranger to all the communities and belong to no settlement. The universe is my country, and the human family is my tribe. I repeat my favorite lines of Khalil Gibran. The universe is my country, and the human family is my tribe. Men are weak, and it is sad that they divide amongst themselves. The world is narrow, and it is unwise to cleave it into the kingdoms, empires, and provinces. Humankinds unite themselves, one to destroy the temples of the soul, and they join hands to build edifices for earthly bodies. I stand alone. I stand alone, listening to the voice of the hope in my deep self saying, as love enlivens a man's heart with pain, so ignorance teaches him the way of knowledge. Pain and ignorance lead to the great joy and knowledge, because the Supreme Being has created nothing vain under the sun. Thank you very much. This is part one. And now thank you. Thanks a lot. Now I would request Meenakshi Gandhi ji to kindly recite part 3. Thank you so much.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Likita. You are doing a very good job with your anchoring. Continuing with part 3. Thou art my brother, because you are a human, and we both are sons of one Holy Spirit. We are equal and made of the same earth. You are here as my companion along the path of life, and my aid in understanding the meaning of hidden truth. You are human, and that fact sufficing. I love you as a brother. You may speak of me as you choose, for tomorrow shall take you away, and will use your talk as evident for his judgment, and you shall receive justice. You may deprive me of whatever I possess, for my greed instigated the amassing of wealth, and you are entitled by lot if it will satisfy you. You may do unto me whatever you wish, but you shall not be able to touch my truth. You may shed my blood and burn my body, but you cannot kill or hurt my spirit. You may tie my hands with chains and my feet with shackles and put me in the dark prison, but who shall not enslave my thinking? For it is free like the breeze in the spacious sky. You are my brother and I love you. I love you worshipping in your church, kneeling in your temple, and praying in your mosque. You and I and all are children of one religion. For the varied parts of religion are but the fingers of the loving hand of the Supreme Being, extended to all, offering completeness of spirit to all, anxious to receive all. I love you for your truth, derived from your knowledge, that truth which I cannot see because of my ignorance, but I respect it as a divine thing, for it is the deed of the Spirit. Your truth shall meet my truth in the coming world and blend together like the fragrance of flowers and becoming one whole and eternal truth, perpetuating and living in the eternity of love and beauty. I love you because you are weak before the strong oppressor and poor before the greedy rich. For these reasons, I shed tears and comfort you. And from behind my tears, I see you embraced in the arms of justice, smiling and forgiving your persecutors. You are my brother and I love you. Thank you.
Very nice recitation.
Suresh, good evening to everyone. And I am reciting part 4 of Poetic Voice of Khalil Gibran. You are my brother, but why are you quarreling with me? Why do you invade my country and try to subjugate me for sake of pleasing those who are seeking glory and authority? Why do you leave your wife and children and follow dead to the distant land for the sake of those who win glory with your blood and high honor with your mother's tears? Is it an honor for a man to kill his brother man? If you deemed it an honor, let it be an act of worship, and erect a temple to Cain, who slave his brother Abel. Is self-preservation the first law of nature? Why then does greed urge you to self-sacrifice in order only to achieve his aim in hurting your brother? Be aware, my brother, of leader who says law of existence obliges us to deprive the people of their rights. I say unto you, but this protecting others' right is the noblest and most beautiful human act. If my existence requires that I kill others, then death is more honorable to me, and if I cannot find someone to kill me for the protection of my honor, I will not hesitate to take my life by my own hands for the sake of eternity before eternity comes. Selfishness, my brother, is the cause of blind superiority, and superiority creates clanship, and clanship creates authority, which leads to discord and subjugation. The soul believes in the power of knowledge and justice or dark ignorance. It denies the authority that supplies the sword to defend and strengthen ignorance and oppression. that authority which destroyed Babylon and shook the foundation of Jerusalem and left Rome in ruins. It is that which made people call criminals great men, made rights respect their names, made historians relate the story of their inhumanity in manner of praise. The only authority I obey is the knowledge of guarding and accusing in the nature law of justice. What justice does authority display when it kills the killer, when it imprisons the robber, when it descends on a neighborhood country and slays its people? What does justice think of authority under which a killer punishes on the who kills and thieves sentences the one who steals? You are my brother and I love you, and love is justice with its full intensity and dignity. If justice did not support my love for you, regardless of your tribe and community, I would be a deceiver, concealing the ugliness of selfness behind the outer garment of pure love. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Very nice, very nice, very nice. Fantastic.
Thank you so very much. And I'm really sorry I couldn't get to introduce Meenakshi ji and Suresh ji. Towards the third part, who recited this poem, we had Meenakshi ji, who began writing since around 27 years, if I'm right, Meenakshi ji. We loved your recitation. And following her, we had Suresh Chaudhary ji, who made a beautiful rap to the amazing poem, Voice of a Poet. One day, to quote, one day you will ask me, one day you will ask me, what is more important, my life or yours? I will say mine, and you will walk away, not knowing that you are my life. And to quote, that should be a perfect wrap for this session. A wonderful evening, celebrating our legend, the one and only Khalil Gibran. And so, here we are at the end of our session, and I would like to thank each and every enthusiastic poet who came up to recite Khalil. A biggest thanks to Tufail ji for the opportunity. This is it for today evening. I'm Likhita Kawaro. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Likhita. You have made this evening a very special. This program, Khalil Gibran program.
It's all thanks to you, sir, for giving this opportunity.
Well, you deserve that.
Beta. You deserve.
Thank you. Thank you so very much.
And I think you have done complete justice to the program, a program on Khalil Gibran, the kind of anchoring that it calls for. You have definitely provided that. It's so wonderful. Now I would request PLG Global Vice President, Mr. Ashish Sharma, to deliver the vote of thanks. And before that, I'm sorry, I missed it. We have one more thing to go, and that's the magazine. So I would request Vibha Tiwari ji to be ready with the magazine, and I would request Ashish ji to unravel the magazine, and then go ahead with the vote of thanks and the closing video.
Hello. Hello.
Yes, please. We can listen.
You're audible, ma'am.
I was looking for the mic. So this is the magazine, and as usual, the cover page is designed by, this was laughter special, तो ये हास्य स्पेशल था, और कवर पेपर जो कवर पेज है वो डिजाइन बाय शालिनी जी हैं, और अंदर में बहुत ही अच्छा इस बार का जो लिखा है इन्होंने, शेरे बानो जी ने इस पे जो रिपोर्ट तैयार किया है, बहुत ही खूबसूरत रिपोर्ट है। और कविताएं हैं, हमारे एंकर थे अजय गुप्ता जी, और उनकी एंकरिंग बहुत ही मजेदार थी। पूरा एपिसोड बार बार देखने को मन करता है। कभी कभी कविताओं से ऊपर उनकी एंकरिंग हो गई है पिछले एपिसोड में। और उसके बाद बहुत खूबसूरत कविताएं, और लिखिता की कविता भी बहुत ही खूबसूरत थी। इसमें लिखिता की भी कविता है जो
थैंक यू मैम।
कविता थी पिछले हफ्ते। और उसके बाद सबकी कविताएं हैं, और ये आखिरी पन्ने पर ये शालिनी जी की पिक्चर मैंने फेसबुक से चुराई है, क्योंकि इनके घुमंतू स्वभाव के कारण एक नई कविता का जन्म हुआ था, और ये स्पेशल पिक्चर मैंने उनकी कविता के साथ लगाई है। शालिनी सॉरी शुभांगी जी की, तो मैंने फेसबुक से चुराई है, तो उनको अगर अच्छा लगे तो बहुत अच्छा है, वैसे मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगा। और
हास मैगजीन में के डिस्प्ले में भी कुछ हास होना चाहिए, वो आपने प्रोवाइड कर दिया है।
इसलिए उनकी बहुत सारी खूबसूरत पिक्चर्स थी मेरे पास साड़ी में, पर मैंने ढूंढ के ये गेंदे के फूल वाला लगाया, क्योंकि इस कविता का जन्म जो मैगी के बारे में उन्होंने बताया, वो उनके घुमक्कड़ स्वभाव के कारण हुआ है कि वो रात को थकी आती है और खाना नहीं पका पाती। ये आखिरी है। और उनकी सासू माँ का एक कमेंट भी बहुत अच्छा था कि वो मैगी तुम नहीं पकाती हो, मेरा बेटा पकाता है। हाँ, मेरा बेटा डिनर मेरा बेटा बनाता है। और ये आगे आने वाले आगामी कार्यक्रमों की रूपरेखा है, और इसमें मुझे लग रहा है कि बच्चे बहुत एक्टिवली पार्टिसिपेट करेंगे। एग्जाम खत्म हो जाएगा, फिर भी आज जयती ने समय निकाला और इतना अच्छा काव्य पाठ किया, तो मुबारक हो, और आगे आने वाले पेपर्स के लिए ऑल द बेस्ट। और ये हमारी मैगजीन है, और आगे के कार्यक्रम के लिए चलते हैं। आशीष जी, आपके पास वोट ऑफ थैंक्स के लिए।
थैंक यू आंटी जी।
क्या
जी बहुत शुक्रिया। बहुत ही बढ़िया प्रोग्राम रहा। इट वाज अ वेरी नाइस सेलिब्रेटिंग द लीजेंड हमारा हमेशा ही एक स्पेशल रहता है फॉर PLG। लिखिता, हैट्स ऑफ टू यू, you have done a fabulous anchoring, as I already told in my before my reciting.
I wouldn't have done it at all without yours and Tufilji's support, sir. Thank you so very much.
You did a great job, and you have taken the whole episode to a very height.
Thank you so very much, sir.
Hats off to you. Thanks to Tufail sir every time, for all the arrangements, Tufail ji and Simmi ji. Thank you very much, all our poets, because selecting others' poems is not an easy task, because you have to go into that, and celebrating the legend especially. This particular episode, it gives you a chance to go through the poetry of many legends. Sometimes because it may not be, you may not have read it. Like for example, Khalil Gibran, I have never read it before, but when I started reading and I started searching, I have become fan of him. So sometimes it happens, because I am not an English poetry reader. So I generally, recite and read and write, the Hindi poetry, but it took me there. So that's what the beauty of PLG is, and such episodes is. Thank you very much to our young volunteers, Amir, Tufail Ahmed, and Abhilak Sharma, for their continuous support behind the curtains, and they always are on time for posters and for the videos. Thank you very much, Shere Banuji and Anupam ji, both are present today. आपकी जो मीडिया अपडेट्स होते हैं वो रियली फैबुलस होते हैं, और उनको पढ़ के पूरा पूरा एपिसोड आंखों के सामने से निकल जाता है. कई बार होता है, sometimes it happens that you may not give it a read immediately, but whenever you read, you feel that how the episode must have gone.
Replay.
और हमारे लिए तो replay. For us, for me and Tufail sir, we are present all the episodes throughout. So हमारे लिए एक replay हो जाता है कि अगर commentary को पढ़ना हो तो कैसे पढ़ा जाए. So hats off to both of you. Thank you very much, Munawar Rahman Sahab, for all the certificates which you bring in. You do a hard job in that. हमारा और तुफैल साहब का तो सिग्नेचर है, वो भी हमने पहले ही आपको दिया हुआ है, वो ही आप.
Thanks to digital age.
जी. Thank you very much. And इसके अलावा मैं I would like to thank Mr. Khalik, who has gone many miles forward, and he is doing a hard job for bringing up PLG's website, and also the YouTube. He'll be taking care for that, and Ajay ji will be bringing very soon. I mean, that's great. Tufail Sahab is already showing.
Yeah, it's the prototype. It's still not developed.
Yes. So we are all eagerly waiting for it. And Ajay ji, that one poet, 1 week, that episodes are going to be coming very soon. Thank you very much to all our viewers who are always with us on YouTube and on Facebook Live, because if you are there, that give us an encouragement to do even better and better. So with this, I will play the last video now, which is PLG Shines.